to make sure black babies ain't being killed, to make sure there's money invested in our community. Well, tell them you're the best racist ever. I mean, and somebody, please do me a favor. Can somebody tell Donald Trump how to be a racist? Because he's not doing a good job.
Yo, Black Lives Matter! Actually, all lives matter. That's racist. Black Lives Matter!
One day later.
That's racist. All lives matter!
There's $24 billion here and there, $500 million there. Some people want to be paid back, and members of the public are wondering, why are we suffering when you have all of this vast wealth? Those are legitimate concerns.
Well, I think you're right about reparations in terms of if people want it, though, what they need to do is you always need to go back to the beginning of a supply chain. Where was the beginning of the supply chain? That was in Africa. And when...
Ooh, that was an... Okay.
You study today's black culture is trash. Ain't nothing positive about black culture. We're not highlighting spelling bee winners. We don't talk about the newest black business that's doing good. When you go on social media, you look at some of the most trending videos and trending topics. It ain't black empowerment. It ain't uplifting black people. When you look at our movies, we ain't got no black heroes. Black culture has black propaganda. Hitler used propaganda to get the Germans to turn on the Jews. We use propaganda for our culture. We propagate pimps, gangsters, killers, womanizers, robbers, deceit, being unfaithful. We got some propaganda, homie, that's brainwashing.
I am a pastor. I'm a man of faith. I have a profound reverence for life. Well, I want to save your life.
I have to respond to this very quick because he told me Black Lives Matter. And if you think about it, Senator, in Atlanta, Georgia, there's more black baby that is aborted than anything. So if Black Lives Matter, why are you not protecting those babies? And instead of aborting those babies, why are you not baptizing those babies?
The Woman King is a modern-day version of D.W. Griffith's The Birth of a Nation. The 1915 silent film was used to promote racism through its false narratives. The Woman King does the same thing. It lies and misappropriates history, leaving the viewer into thinking that the Dahomey tribe eradicated slavery from within their ranks. They did not. Instead, they continued on with impunity. Yet, people still make excuses. Some people refuse to put any blame whatsoever on Africa for their huge part in the slave trade. Now, why is that? Black Lives Matter! Oh, did you see the new Candace Owens film on BLM? Nah, man, you a sellout. Oh, you mean BLM raising nearly $80 million, but almost zero money going to the black community? Building several lavish multi-million-dollar properties in affluent all-white neighborhoods and investing $32 million in Wall Street? You mean that kind of a sellout? Oh, man, Black Lives Matter! Despite Roots' claim that during the heyday of the massive slave trade from West Africa to America, a white man was more likely to develop malaria in Africa than catch slaves. The average life expectancy of a white male in sub-Saharan Africa's interior at the time was less than a year. Men from Europe or the Western Hemisphere arrived on Africa's coast, bought slaves, and fled as quickly as they could. For the slave trade to be possible, they needed massive help from Africans. Because we do not want to be numbers, we will defend the value of the human being. Every single human being, because each of us has a unique genetic code that is unrepeatable. And like it or not, that is sacred. We will defend it. We will defend God, country, and family. For those things that disgust people so much, we will do it to defend our freedom. Because we will never be slaves and simple consumers at the mercy of financial speculators.
Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.
This is what Reagan later meant by "we are a shining city on a hill." All right, everybody, welcome to the Conservative Take. My name is Kyle, and unfortunately, we're doing another one of these videos literally 2 months and 2 days away from the first assassination attempt on President Trump. And I thought that actually that particular live stream that we did after the fact was actually a very, very good one of our best ones, particularly because of who we had as our guest. And that would be Nicole Kaufman, who we have back on the show. I didn't even prep her. She's right there in the queue. I'm going to bring her up because she's a professional. No prep work here, no green room here. We're going to bring her in and we're going to talk about this incredible event that happened yesterday. And so with that, Nicole, I'm going to bring you on. And first of all, welcome to the program again. And just general things. How are you doing today? How are you feeling?
Hey, coming in hot. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Good. Okay, audio's up, right? Coming in hot. I'm doing okay. I will say I'm reeling after yesterday's events. But I'm hanging in there. I was away from my phone, away from all media when everything happened yesterday, which doesn't happen often, but I've been playing catch up since about 7:00 last night until even a half an hour ago. We were, there are still press conferences going on this afternoon, and Ron DeSantis was having a press conference this afternoon as well. So still getting all the info there. So I would like, I'm like you, here we are 2 months and 2 days post the initial event, and here we are again. Yet it does not surprise me. I wish it did. But the turn of events here have not surprised me in the least.
Yeah, and we're going to stay away from a lot of the fog of war type stuff, some of the tinfoil hat stuff, which I'm actually agreeing with most of it now. But
Right.
Because of your expertise, I like to get, you know what I mean? I would like the audience to know a little bit, because we only have you for an hour. So I want to make sure we get this in, get you in as much, because you have a unique perspective. So tell the audience again, if they're not familiar, who you are, what your specialty is, what you do here on the Conservative Take, and just what you're trying to bring to the table on this particular episode that you're going to be talking about.
Sure. So my name is Nicole Kaufman. I am the founder of High Performance Counseling, and I work with clients who are entrepreneurs, business people, basically high performing type of folks, to essentially help them get out of their way in terms of leveling up their productivity and getting out of depressing or anxiety ridden situations and parts that are holding them back from doing better in their lives. The other part of my practice, and especially that I have developed over the last couple of years, has been working with people who are partners to or in pathological love relationships. So that means working with people who have experiences with folks who are antisocial, psychopathic, narcissistic, or borderline personality styles. So dealing with those types of people in a close personal relationship, whether it be work or at home or in your family, that's a whole different approach, and kind of makes everybody second guess what in the world is going on here. So I've taken a role or an interest in Kyle's work over the years to bring more of a psychological or a therapist type perspective to the events of the day and politics. And I like to think I'm not as smart as he is, but I'd like to think that I'm the Jordan Peterson for the Conservative Take. So anybody, I think, anyone is familiar with Jordan Peterson. And so I'd like to think that I model myself in what I try to bring, from his perspective somewhat.
Yeah. So, that's exactly right. So one of the things that the audience should really know is that your expertise is really unique here on the internet. And so we're going to just jump in here a little bit about the emotional, psychological effect of not only Trump, because that was kind of what we talked about last time, mainly, but also we're going to talk about his wife, and well, let's just get into his wife first. And have you seen the clip that Melania did in regarding the first attack on her husband? Did you see that?
I saw parts of it. Yes, I think I got the essence of it. I didn't watch it all the way through. I know it wasn't that long, but yeah, basically she did a takedown on. Yeah, go ahead. She did a takedown.
We can play it now.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
34 seconds, and then we can react to it. Is that okay?
Absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
Okay, let's go.
The attempt to end my husband's life was a horrible, distressing experience. Now, the silence around it feels heavy. I can't help but wonder, why didn't law enforcement officials arrest the shooter before the speech? There is definitely more to this story, and we need to uncover the truth.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, and she's saying the quiet part out loud. She's asking the questions on everybody's mind. That why wasn't more done pre-incident? Why was what we learned about the existence of that shooter pre-speech? Clearly indicated to everybody who wasn't even in law enforcement or Secret Service that Trump should have never been brought on the stage. So her breaking that silence and coming out in a way that is questioning what's going on. It's questioning, the service, the protection detail that he was given. And yeah, it was horribly distressing. This man has been in the crosshairs and will continue to be in the crosshairs until the rhetoric in this country cools off. And there are no signs of that happening. There are no signs of that happening. And, today we have body cam footage of the arrest of this particular assassin. We had it within minutes. There is no body cam footage of anything that happened in Pennsylvania. You would have you have to do a FOIA request for that. So the lack of transparency here is just gross. And I think that's what she's bringing out and highlighting, and that there is so much silence, not that we're going to get into the 10 hat, conspiracy theories today, but you don't have to be a security expert to question what is going on here and why the reactive, flat-footed nature of the FBI Secret Service to give this man more protection. What does it take in order for him to get more protection? I just don't understand. And there is what is really disturbing for me from a therapist and a counselor perspective is the lack of compassion for what is happening here. And and we talked about this before, but again, we had another incident, so we need to mention it, that this country cannot take an assassination of one of its beloved leaders. Not that any country can, but I think we are underestimating how that would rock the foundation of this country, how it would leave. Everyone is already feeling dissatisfied, unmoored, uncertain about what is happening in the next 54 days until the election. Is it something like that?
52, 51, something like that.
52. Okay. Yeah. So people don't know where to put their money. People don't know whether to hire. People don't know, what's going to happen. Should I make a major purchase between now and then? What's going to happen to interest rates? People are so uncertain. And then to have, one assassination attempt after another, and for law enforcement to peacock around that it's somehow a win that he didn't actually get killed is really disturbing. It is really disturbing.
Yeah, it really is, and you could just see sort of the tone of the video that Melania did. Mm-hmm. But let me just go back to what you just said there, because Trump did an interview. I believe I'm not sure who was with. What's with Tucker? I can't remember.
Okay,
but it was a very graphic interview. Mm-hmm. I don't want to get too descriptive here, but he was basically very candid. He said what our enemies wanted to see was his head basically exploding. And you can see it in 4K footage all over the place, cell phones and memes everywhere. That's what they wanted.
Mm-hmm. No question.
So can you kind of talk through that a little bit in terms of that emotional distress? You kind of touched on it itself. But we'll get into Barron in a second here, because Barron had a tweet that was really sweet. Mm-hmm. But can you talk about that worst case scenario that we all would have had to experience?
I think what that is doing, I mean, to me, that links back to what Kathy remember Kathy Griffiths, when she had his severed head and holding it. It has this almost, it's so severe and so shocking that it has a numbing effect, because what it does to the human psyche to see stuff like that, it basically numbs you and puts you in a state of disbelief. It's kind of like when the pandemic was happening, there were people, people couldn't believe what was actually happening. And what that kind of shocking experience does to your brain is actually make you very suggestible, meaning you are then predisposed to believe almost anything. That is, of course, when the tinfoil hat conspiracy theories come out. That is when, we everything gets questioned, etc. So, when you're seeing, the leader of a free nation's head, get blown off his shoulders, potentially in real time, it rocks the foundation of who we are and what is happening. I mean, this is Banana Republic stuff, right? And so it kind of takes the knees out from under us as far as what we think we can depend on in terms of a sense of safety, in terms of a sense of a security as a nation. And it makes you question everything. So if you're going to question everything, then all of a sudden you are incredibly suggestible. And I think, we had that before with COVID. And if, knock on wood, please God, this is somehow, there's a third or fourth or more attempt that somehow is successful, it will decimate the morale of this country. And decimating the morale of a country is, the chief way to institute a new morale, a new world order, a new type of governance or societal rule, that because basically you are saying what was, we did away with that. And here's the new, because you don't have anything to go back to. And that's to me what is starting to twist everybody's noodle.
Did you watch the show 24?
Yes, I have watched that. Mm-hmm.
So do you remember the actual premise of the first season? It was basically David Palmer. It was about him being taken out, being the first black president running for president. This is actually before Obama. And the whole premise of the show was what happens if this guy, David Palmer, gets taken out as he's running for president. It will tear the country apart.
Right.
Speaking to what you just said. So
yeah, I mean, in a way, there are so many things on 24 that were portentous, right? For what we're seeing now. It's
my gosh, yeah.
Bizarre. But true. So yeah, it would not that the foundation of the country, we are so divided. We are so very much on opposite sides of, where we see this country going and what we see for a vision for the future of this country right now. Take out a leader like this and it dissolves. I mean, it just absolutely morale and everything would just be on the floor. I can't imagine. I can't imagine. I was, obviously not around during the assassination of JFK, but in my opinion, people were, I think it did the same thing then. And because nobody thought that could happen, right? And it actually happened.
Yeah, you brought up on Kathy Griffith, and this is a segue into the next segment here. But you mentioned her, and I may have mentioned this the last time we talked live on this 2 months and 2 days ago, was that Barron at the time was, I don't know how old he is now, but he was 7 years younger?
Yeah.
Kid, right?
Yeah, he was a little kid.
I think he saw that in the paper or on the internet somewhere, and he thought it was his dad's head for real.
Did he really? Oh,
because they told that story, Melania did.
Oh.
And so here we have this. That's bad enough. So then I saw this particular tweet he put out yesterday, and I actually followed him. I didn't know I didn't know he was on Twitter, but he put this out. If I can find it here, where did I put it? Oh gosh, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Okay, so take a look at this.
Yep. It seems to me, I think that a religiosity or at least a belief in God and Christianity, that's been an ongoing thing for the Trump campaign and for the Trump family. I don't want to make any assumptions here, but and far be it for me to judge how devout they may be. But it seems to me that has always been a thread in their family, and they've not been showy about it. They've not been ostentatious about their belief or what have you. But it seems to me to be a pillar in the family. So I think it's coming out more and more now. Just because, in my opinion, in my opinion, by the grace of God, Trump has survived. Where
I think we lost your audio.
Oh, are we still here? How about now?
While she's doing that, I'm going to give a shout out to the people we have here in the comments. Okay. So Rick, thank you for saying, giving a shout out to Nicole, Lyric Rankins, talking about Amen Melania. Are you back?
I'm not back. I don't know.
Yeah,
can you hear me?
Yeah, I was just going through some of the so you just some of these comments, but I can hear you now. You can continue on.
Okay, very good. Well, I just do think that religion and belief in God is a tenet for their family, and it just continues now. And this man, it's a miracle to me that he has survived like he has. And, the toll that this takes on the family is just beyond, it's a bit of displaced grief, right? Because these kids have to steel themselves, and Melania as well. She has to steel herself for the idea that this is beyond real. That they have to mentally prepare themselves that perhaps somebody's not going to miss at some point, and what that will be. And for most people, nobody usually has to go through this, right? So to have to live your life this way with the possibility that, any minute now it could be over for my dad, is how actually I think a lot of service members and their families who are in active duty combat. That's how they live. They have this displaced grief or this kind of protracted grief that, that it could happen. It hasn't happened yet, but it could. So they have to be prepared. And that is a really stressful way to live. I'm just telling you. And unfortunately, we're in the first family, or the Trump family is in a situation where they have no choice but to live this way right now.
I want to apologize, Nicole. That wasn't your fault. That was my fault.
No worries.
Yeah, they were telling me that they could hear you. I had you to the wrong headphones. Sorry about that.
No worries.
No worries. So it was interesting and we can bring up this a little bit because I think this is going to fit. I didn't plan on talking about this, but JFK Jr. is very interesting because I wasn't really following him but before he joined the campaign, I knew nothing about him other than the fact that he was the son of the late Robert F. Kennedy. Of course, he was still at the Ambassador Hotel in California right after the Democrat convention in California. He's on his way to win the nomination, going against, talking about a swamp. But and just a few years earlier, his brother was killed in 1963, 5 years earlier. And RFK Jr. was 14 years old when his dad died. And he was, however, do the math, whatever that is, when his uncle died. But here's the interesting thing, Nicole, because he was older. He understood that at 14 years old. And so he was a little different than the rest of his brothers and sisters. He wasn't this waspy kind of guy who lots of money and didn't have much focus in life. He had clear focus and clear vision of what to do with his life because he practically buried his father. At 14 years old, you remember that very, very, very well. And so that's what pretty much been driving him most of his life. And people have been saying he's going to be the next guy, but he's a staunch. And here's my question. I'm saying this, but I'm going to ask this question. He's a staunch and fiercely independent kind of guy. So let me ask you this. I know we're talking about Barron and this, but there's a similarity there in some way. I mean, hopefully there won't be any similarity, but you know what I'm saying? In terms of what you're saying. Do you see that in terms of that, him witnessing that not only with his dad, also his uncle, and being in the White House, being underneath the Resolute desk, playing around, the halls, and have that happen? Do you see that as something that is going to galvanize Barron? It's hard. You can't guess, but you can speculate in terms of what do you think that can do to him? Because he sounds like he's a really sharp dude. And one more thing I'll say about Barron is that he was the guy who told Trump, his dad, dude, get off this whole thing about these pharmaceuticals, whatever. Big pharma is not our friends. He was telling them. So was a few other people, but that was the one who was really driving him to push RFK get him into the campaign. So lastly, my question one more time is, do you think that experiences that he has, his sharpness, his intelligence, he's like a chess champion, whatever. Do you think that has to do with anything that could be galvanizing him to a leadership or even worse on the other side, on the other end of the spectrum?
Well, and you're talking about the future of Barron. That's what we're talking about, right? Well, there's the nature-nurture aspect, right, of child development and of adult development. So he is predisposed to, at least from a genetic or intelligence standpoint, to have a really good business acumen, and more than likely is going to be, pretty sharp and be brought up, within that business atmosphere. But also, I think he understands, people who grow up in, with the last name of Trump understand I think they inherently understand their degree of exposure, their degree of responsibility, and also, and unlike the rest of us, the idea that they're not going to be everybody's flavor. They're going to be people that hate them just because of their last name. So I think he will grow up, galvanized and prepared for that. It's just a matter of, okay, how much protection is his family going to need moving forward, such that, so that he can operate as a quasi-normal person, Did the Kennedys always have a target on their back after JFK? Well, yeah, it would seem so. Have any of the Kennedys been able to live a normal life? Not really. I mean, the word on the street that family was cursed, right? We've heard that. That's always been, the thing that family was cursed. And so, it's going to be interesting to see how he grows up and whether they push Barron or whether his interest falls in the line of business and, just staying in the business aspect of his family's legacy, or if he dares, step into the political end of things. It would seem that he's got the genetic code and the upbringing to do either one. It just depends on what happens and what kind of legacy is left to him. I think that's what will determine that.
I know people are probably wondering why we're not talking about the assassination attempt, but your expertise is in this area. And at this hour, at 6 o'clock, I'm going to go over to Rumble and X and just go full tilt.
Okay.
So, but I think this is important because everyone's talking about everything on this, but no one's, I don't think, is talking about this aspect of it. So that's why I appreciate you coming on and sharing this. I literally sent you a text yesterday, and you saw it, I guess, today, and you agreed to do this, what, 5 hours ago?
Something like that. Yeah, it's okay.
I really appreciate it. So I'm going to digress a little bit. We have a couple more segments I'm going to bring up, basically about Trump himself, and also dealing with MAGA supporters, how we feel, and then lastly, if we have time, talk about a little bit about what would happen if the left had this going. What if this was someone that they liked, that they were
right
supporting? We'll get there in a second.
Okay.
But real quick, I want to just say something real quickly off the cuff. I watched The Apprentice throughout the whole 90s, early 2000s, wherever it was. And I've always been a fan of Trump, even back to The Art of the Deal. I bought my dad the book, The Art of the Deal, back in the 80s. Show you how old I am. So he was the man. Trump was the man.
Yeah.
He was the man. So the point is, The Apprentice. So and like in season 3 or 4, he introduced Junior, and he introduced Ivanka, and ultimately he introduced Eric as well. But what's interesting is one of the season finales of, I think, season 3, if you can find it. I have it personally if you want to see it. I have it. I have all the seasons. I have all the seasons. I'm a fanboy. Sorry. So anyway, they asked them, because like one of the challenges was, one of the rewards was for the people, the last 3 contestants, they were going to get a chance to spend time with Ivanka and Don Jr. and ask them whatever they want to ask them about Trump, right? His dad. And this is like 20 years ago, right?
Right.
What they said? By the way, Don had a mullet, right? But he said, our dad was tough. He gave us nothing. We weren't poor. We went to college. We weren't broke. We weren't going to dumpsters and getting food. But we had a certain amount of allowance. If we spent it all, we were done. We had to get jobs. Our dad was tough, but he was fair. And that's, you can't fake that. That is real. You go back and look at the old Apprentice episodes. That stuff was real, man. So anyway, you want to talk on that real quickly before I move on to the next thing? If you want to just
sure. I mean, I've heard so many pundits refer to Trump as pick your adjective that is pejorative, selfish, or he's a liar, he's this. But then when you see clips like that, or you hear stories that, okay, he paid off somebody's house who, their family member got into an accident. He did this, he did that. He's incredibly generous. All of these things, which are complete opposite of what we keep hearing. And I work with a lot of high-end clients that are usually in the multimillionaire kind of set. And they're regular people. A lot of them are regular people with regular problems that need to see a therapist. And they don't want to give their kids a charmed life, most of them. Most of them want to, help them be resourceful enough to make their own way. whether it be in continuing the family business or striking out in their own career. But yeah, it does not surprise me in the least that his kids said that he was tough but fair. And most business people, even if they had a leg up when they started, even if it's a personal loan from a parent or something like that in order to get started, they understand that it takes a lot of hard work and that success is not just granted because you have a good idea. It takes a lot of work, and most business people that I work with and that I know think the same way. And I think that's the appeal. They know that he has worked extremely hard to build, that empire, and he continues to do it. He's not resting on his laurels. He's not just sitting back and just watching it kind of, run itself. He's still very active in his business, as far as I'm aware. To the extent that he can, given his campaign involvement, et cetera. So, put that out there. But yeah, that doesn't surprise me in the least. He's a very real person. So there you go.
Yeah, and that's why I like him. He's real. So so let's talk a little about we already kind of talked about him before, but let me ask you this real quickly because I want to just not omit him. Last time we talked about the fact that him having to cope and deal with this brutal attack. I mean, he actually got hit with a bullet. I mean,
right.
So, and you mentioned, I think before was, he had to overcome some things and this and that. How was that changed now based on what you've seen this past 2 months and 2 days to what you can see happening in the future? Because his comment to Hannity was, dude, I was even. I want to finish the hole.
Right.
Did you catch that?
Yeah, I did catch that. Yeah. So when anybody experiences some sort of trauma or natural disaster or, some sort of violent act, the clinical phase that they move into from a mental health standpoint is known as acute stress disorder. They may have problems eating, sleeping, doing everyday tasks, concentration, that sort of thing. And everybody is different. Acute stress disorder for one person can look very different from another. Everybody's a special snowflake, as I like to say. So your ability to cope is different from person to person. So it was very interesting for me when I saw him at the debate the other night, because in my opinion, he was more distractible and a little bit more edgy and irritable than he was at the first debate with Biden. And that was right after, his for the assassination attempt. I'm getting my timing off.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like because the day right after that he had to go to the convention. He had.
That's right. Yes.
So and then after that, then the debate happened.
Right. So so I felt that and the debate environment notwithstanding, that alone was its own kettle of fish in terms of stress provoking for Trump. But it did not surprise me that he seemed a little bit more edgy and irritable than I think he normally would have been. Now, they're catching him where he lives, right? Two places that he loves to be, on the campaign trail and stumping and making speeches. The man loves the spotlight, right? And then now they've caught him on the golf course, another place where he loves to be. So they couldn't be more, I say they, capital T, I guess, whoever's going after him, it's like, talk about terrorizing him. It's like you're not safe in your own environment. In a place where you think is safe and that you're protected, now that is brought into question. So that causes you, the individual, or Trump, to second guess, to be hyper vigilant, always looking around your surroundings. And again, a lack of focus and, tough decision making. And That's usually not who Trump is, right? I mean, we know him to be somebody who is extremely decisive and very laser focused. Well, it's nothing like a couple of attempts on your life and, within a 62-day span to make you think differently, to make you pause. And, in a way, some people respond to this with catatonia or isolation. They shut down completely. They don't talk. They don't go anywhere. They completely shut down. And, if you're rattled enough, you will, even if it's for a period of time. So the mental and emotional toll that is taking. So now it's like, okay, is his security detail going to allow him now to golf? And if the man can't golf, then what is the man doing in order to cope? What is the man doing in order to stress release?
Yes.
Is he going to be, kind of in a bunker in his own house? And, that's not where he wants to be. This man wants to be out and about and around people. And so it's not so much that they didn't hit him. It's now they are making him head trip, right? Where can I go? What can I do? Where am I safe? The two places I thought I was the most safe and the most at home, I've had an attempt on my life. Where do I go? And that right there, it makes you feel unsafe. It's disturbing, and it pulls you off your game. And that's the whole idea of this, right? Is to pull him off his game.
Yep. Exactly right. Talking smack in game. And I don't want to trivialize it, but playing cards, man, we used to play spades in college. You would talk trash to get them off their game, get them, that's what that whole thing is. A little bit of housekeeping here. Yes, Rumble will be on Rumble at 6 o'clock. Roughly, we're going to do a break between there, maybe 5 minutes. So around 6:05, we're going to cover that. And I'm going to cover our Twitter feed. There's so much stuff going on, and I'm privy to all of it. Before I was trying to hide myself from it. Now I'm in it both feet. So because I'm pissed now. I'm really pissed now. And also at 7 o'clock, we'll go to our subscription only site Locals. It'll be free if you just sign up. You don't have to pay. It's just you have to register on locals.com. There's a link right there. And then for a half hour or so, because that's all I get on the free site. Okay. To get my money. But I'm going to go through the entire 50 states and why Trump is winning each of them. Not just me. This is from two of the most accurate pollsters. One's a pollster from 2020, he's the most accurate aggregate, and the most accurate pollster from 2020 regular pollster. Okay. And also dealing with equal politics and also our People's Pundit and all that stuff together. I kind of put it together into a spreadsheet and then kind of average them all out. And Trump is absolutely killing it, which doesn't surprise me at all why they were trying to take him out, because he's going to win this thing if he can stay alive. Right. He's so far ahead right now when you'll see at 7 o'clock that they can't even cheat this one out. So but let's talk about that a little bit. That's a good segue. Pat on the back myself. Good job, Kyle. Segue. Let's talk about a little bit about the MAGA fans. I mean, because I was at the rally in North Carolina, the rally after the attempt. I was there. It was packed. This is in Asheboro, North Carolina. And that's another story, but there was so much enthusiasm there, but there's a lot of angst too. A lot of conversations I was seeing, t-shirts I was seeing, hats, it was just really a different Trump rally. There was no means like, we're cooking out, whatever, not really, but it's like a tailgate party. This was way more different, more serious than it was. So can you walk me through I know you're just speculating here, but the average MAGA supporter, person who maybe never voted the entire life before Trump came along, and now and not just past 2 months, but going back to when he first got inaugurated, this whole cycle we've been through, even before that, it's been almost 8 years or 8.5 years of just turmoil on Trump MAGA supporters from all over the place, going through COVID, being attacked, ridiculed, losing family members, everything. Can you kind of summarize as much as you can?
How long do we have?
Maybe we can have a whole show on that.
Yeah, we could. Well, so I'll speak to the idea, I think the idea, the reason that people were so serious at this rally, because I went to a Trump rally way back in, I guess, 2015, 2016, the one that was in Winston-Salem. And what has changed from then to now, in my opinion, now the American public and the MAGA supporter specifically understands what gaslighting is. Yeah. And gaslighting, for those of you who aren't aware, and it's now a very common term, whereas, 6-7 years ago, nobody really knew what it was. But gaslighting is the clinical mental health term of telling you that something isn't happening when it actually is. That, your eyes are deceiving you. You are not seeing what you think you are seeing. And I think what's happened in this country is that the American public and MAGA supporters specifically have been saying, but this is happening, but this is happening, but there aren't, 52 sexes, and there aren't, and Black Lives Matter, these people are destroying our country, and there's $1 billion of insurance damage of these people, but yet we're being told that, the protests are not, it's what did they say? Mostly peaceful protests. That's what these are. And so, we're sitting here going, what? And so now people are like, they're going to gaslight us no matter what happens. Right. And so now I think MAGA supporters and Republicans in general, we can't be the nice guys anymore. And I'm not saying that we need to go, burn down the town either, but we've got to call it. And, we've got to vote our way out of this, and you got to bank your vote. And you better not go on election day. You better not go on election day. And the reason why you better go beforehand, you vote and you bank your vote with early voting, and you take 10 friends with you, because on election day, there are going to be shenanigans. There are. Computers are going to go down. Printers are going to run out of ink. There's not going to be parking. Somehow the voting precinct building is going to lose power. There's going to be a pipe that bursts and is going to flood the building. All of these, out of the box things are going to happen. So we've got to be more, vigilant and proactive about getting these votes in early, rather than waiting and thinking, okay, well, there are going to be enough votes because the polls are correct and we're winning. So I got my kid's baseball game. I don't have time to go. No, we cannot do that anymore. And I think people are getting more serious about it now, and they understand, because we witnessed it. We were told that it wasn't happening, but now we know that it was happening. So I think that's why people are more serious now than they were before.
That's a great point. So I was going to wait till election day just because that's what we do. But you're right. And what I'm going to talk about 7 o'clock a little bit is that we are doing that now. And the numbers in terms of the registration is through the roof. Poll watchers are through the roof. And people are putting their votes in earlier. North Carolina is one of the first states to vote. And so from what I know, the data right now is that we're right neck and neck with the Democrats, who typically do us like 4 or 5 to 1. Now it's like almost 2 to 1, or it's close enough that it's going to be a big difference. So, but by the way, he's going to win North Carolina by 7. I'm saying it right now, guys. He's going to win it by 7. North Carolina is good. It's not a swing state. Anyone tells you it's a swing state, take the poll and put it in the trash. But anyway, I put that thing there. That's your gaslighting episode, right? Because you had a show on this program, but this is the thumbnail. So if you see that, that's the thumbnail. So check it out. She does a great job of explaining what gaslighting is, and it's a really good episode. So yes, so thank you for that so much, and the advice in terms of voting, because I was going to vote the day of, but I think now I'm going to vote as soon as we can possibly vote now.
Yeah, you get out there.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, everybody needs to bank their vote, and smart. All bets are off on election day. It's going to be chaotic on election day. For whatever reason, I don't care. Especially in blue cities, I think it's going to be chaotic. And so, get out there. The minute these polls open, you get out and you just go and you get it done. And yes, I would like for there to be one voting day where everybody shows up with their ID and votes. That would be amazing. That is not what we're dealing with. That is not the lay of the land now. Until that is, then we go bank our vote. We go bank our vote.
You heard something funny. This is totally off subject, but the Democrats, because they have screwed the economy up so badly, this is hilarious. Because what they would do is they would do something called ballot harvesting, right? So they would basically grandmas or whomever is locked up in their apartment. So they would go around the apartments, knock on the doors, and have them fill out the ballots. They would harvest them. Go out.
Yes.
And so, but the thing is, because the economy is so screwed up, people have moved out of apartment complexes. They can't afford these places anymore. So now the attendance in these big cities are down in terms of apartment complexes because they're either flooded with immigrants who aren't on rolls, so they can't vote, supposedly. And so now the ballot harvesting has been neutralized in these big major cities because of the Biden economy. I find that really ironic.
That's really funny. Yeah, you never know when you might roll up into an apartment complex filled with a Venezuelan gang. So you better be bilingual.
Oh yes, that's a whole nother thing altogether.
Right.
So we got about 10 minutes left. So let's talk a little bit about, real quickly here, about what would it be like if, I'm not going to say the word, I don't want to get, because if I say this person, it begins with an O. But this person I'm thinking about, but just think generically speaking of this person who the Democrats love this person. Oh, we love this person. What would happen if they had to go through this with that person? What would the psychology of them be versus a MAGA person? And just what your take is. I'm not trying to push you one way, but just your thoughts.
So if I'm reading the tea leaves correctly, you're saying if it
was reversed, if Trump was a Democrat,
right? It would be, he would be in a metal-proof box, right? He would be like in the Coke-mobile or something. He would be like a Fabergé egg that's in a box and would not be allowed out. The security detail would be off the chain, right? And
mind you, I'm sorry to cut you off. A Democrat who's not a president, but former president, but not a president, because they're saying Trump can't get this kind of coverage because he's not really the president. But the first thing is, even if he's not the president, it wouldn't matter.
Correct. They wouldn't stand for it. It would be it would be an attempt and unconscionable, and it would have the same fanfare and the same doggedness of the Justice Department to go after whoever did this as they did with us on the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th. They'd arrest hundreds of people, anybody who was associated with it, they would be under the jail. And with the same fervor, I think, I think that they're doing, the January 6 people. Absolutely. Yeah. The double standard here is, and RFK asked for the same security detail and was denied it. Right. And he had his own brother was shot. So, it's the double standard here. And again, that's why the seriousness at the rally is that people understand that, we're on our own with this. We're on our own. Everybody needs to pray that this man makes it to election day and into the office so that he does get the detail he needs. I think that's what we're left to. And that is a sobering thought, really. It really brings down the faith that you have in your government, in your country, that, that's why they're there. FBI and Secret Service, they're there to protect. That's their job. And they're going to do that because of course they would. And what we're seeing is some real laxity and gross laxity. That's the problem, is that it's so ham-handed that that's what makes you think, oh, okay. So yeah, we're going to have to kind of deal with this on our own.
last question for you, and you can take as much time as you like on this. How would the average, if the situation is still reversed, Trump's a Democrat running for president of the United States, let's say a Republican president is doing the same thing, trying to whatever. What's the psyche? What's the psyche of the average Trump supporter in this situation, who's a Democrat, taking consideration everything that's happened over the past 9 years? Knowing their worldview in particular. Or is it the same?
Well, no, I don't think it is. As much as and maybe again, this is the tinfoil hat, but the more I research and listen to and see what is happening, the well-oiled machine of the Democrat Party to rewrite rules, to put in whoever they want, to pull the levers of power just kind of willy-nilly. I mean, it's such a David and Goliath almost paradigm at this point. I had to laugh at Trump during the debate because he was like, they threw their candidate out like a dog. She didn't get a single vote, and there she is, and she's running, and here we are. I mean, it really is amazing when everybody was saying that, it would take a long time for that to happen, and she would have to get the votes. And I don't think that there's enough time to do that. And lickety split, there she was, boom. And I was like, rules be damned. It doesn't matter. If that's what they want to do, they're going to do it. And that's, to me, it's kind of scary, almost frightening part of this is the swiftness with which they kicked Biden to the curb and literally inserted another candidate without any nod to procedure, process, or votes or anything. She didn't get a single delegate vote. She didn't. But here we are, and we've already had a debate. It is mind-boggling. So, to me, it's almost like, okay, the Democrats, they'll just do whatever they want. They'll do whatever the hell they want. If it means, putting somebody in power or what have you. And, if somebody had a pea shooter and zipped off a little pea at, anyone from the Democrat Party, to me, I mean, they would be sequestered and there would be outrage and how dare you? And it would be a different story altogether.
Yeah, they would bring the hammer down on them. And by the way, that what they did was illegal because elections are federally funded through tax dollars. They're regulated through these political parties. They're a structure that says, okay, if you don't have to go through petitions and do this stuff like RFK Jr. had to do, then you can do it under the umbrella of a political party. But if you do that, you're under the guise of federal funding because they have to pay for the ballots, pay for the poll workers, pay for all that stuff. Right. And so there's guidelines. You can't just do what you want to do.
Right. And that's what happened. But they just said, okay, watch us. And they did it. That's what, so I'm like, well, guess it doesn't matter. Guess the whole process is subject to whatever the Democrat Party wants to do. And
through the bylaws.
Pretty much. So go figure that, and again, it weakens the mindset of the American in that, well, now have we become, Venezuela? And now if we don't like the outcome of who's there, we'll just change it, or we'll have them assassinated, or we'll have them, we'll move somebody else in. I mean, it's so banana republic looking. It's embarrassing. And that was not the foundation of this country, of free and fair elections. And to me, we've gone so far the opposite way with changing, the rules that now what exactly? I know there's a lot that distinguishes us, but it can be argued, we're no better. If we just went to only paper ballots, that would be more free and fair than, in my opinion, what we have now. But we don't do that, right? So there are lots of countries that only have paper ballots, and they count their paper ballots. Would it be cumbersome? Absolutely. But does it leave less room for fraud? Yes. So it's hard to figure out what's now distinguishing us from these countries that are just crooked, to say the least.
You nailed it. So, well, I think you did a good job there as always. And I'll give you the last a little bit segment here to tell everyone how they can get a hold of you. Are you taking clients, or
Sure.
where can you practice and all that good stuff, and how they can support you most of all?
Sure. I am taking new clients, so would be happy to work with anybody who wants a different take on their mental health that is, going to use
out of the way so you can see. Hold on, I'm sorry. Keep it.
Yeah, no worries. Anybody who wants a different take on their mental health, I'm not in this business to keep you in my office forever. The idea is to find you solutions and to level up your functioning and get you out of my office and back into real life as quickly as possible. I am licensed to practice in North Carolina and Florida. If you are from anywhere else in the United States, I can still work with you, but we call it coaching instead of mental health counseling. So that's how we get around that. We go from there as far as how to get you where you need to be. And happy to work with anybody. You can get in touch with me through Kyle, or I can be reached at High Performance Counseling. Just Google that online, and my name, Nicole Kaufman, and you'll find me. And just feel free to reach out. I answer all of my inquiries personally. I don't have a staff or a secretary to do that. I do it all myself. So happy to take on any new client, especially ones that find us here on the Conservative Take. Kyle, you're doing God's work. I'm telling you, I love working with you, and you do such a good job on these programs. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. And I'll say as a quick plug, I recommended one person to you as well. He did a fantastic job. He's doing well. And myself, I've been under your tutelage a few times. And I will say firsthand, she's fantastic, especially when this channel was growing crazy. Remember how I said, if I could only get to, 10,000?
10,000. Yes.
10,000. And I'm freaking out, trying to get to 10,000. And now we're however many times that now. But and then we revisited after the fact, and we hit the 100,000 mark. And so just having someone to talk to who's used to dealing with, I'm not trying to say I'm not trying I'm big time, but you're dealing with people way bigger than I am. So you're not intimidated by anything I'm doing. So it made me feel like you were an expert, that you're dealing with people who really are high chargers. I do believe I'm in that category. Yeah. It was really heartfelt you to me. And I just want to say officially in front of everybody, thank you, Nicole, for that.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. You made my day. Thank you. I appreciate that. I love what I do. I love working with you. I love working with my folks. My folks are fascinating people, absolutely fascinating. And it's amazing that I get paid for what I do. I love it that much. I get paid. But every day I'm like, I get paid to do this. This is amazing. So, I love what I do for sure. So, all right, get over there on Rumble, do your thing. And thank you again for having me.
You're welcome, Nicole. I'm going to do some fine tuning here, some cleanup, and then we'll go over to Rumble. But thank you again. And I'll text you a little bit later.
All right. You want me to hit the leave studio button?
I can do it for you. Either one.
All right. I'll talk to you soon, Kyle. Thanks.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.
That was Nicole Kaufman, a good friend of mine, obviously. And I want to just, before I go over to Rumble, I just want to go through some housekeeping stuff here really quickly and tell you how it's going to work. So essentially what's going to happen is this YouTube feed's going to shut down. This Facebook feed's going to shut down. Then we're going to jump over to Rumble, and here is the actual website, and we're going to be on X as well. X will be there as well. And so over there, we're going to talk about what we can't talk about here on YouTube and Facebook for obvious reasons. So we're going to do that. So I'll leave it there. I'm going to go through the comments here real quickly, and I'm going to recognize the people who came on the stream so far. Unfortunately, Rumble does not have the ability to have the interactivity that YouTube does, not yet, because it doesn't have a direct connection with Rumble with StreamYard, which is who we use. So you have to comment in the Rumble section or the X section, I guess. No, you can't in X, I don't think. But so just do it in, if you want to comment, follow on Rumble, and then I can follow you and then respond to your requests and your comments and your hate. If you have hate, that's great. I don't care. It's all good to me as well. So Rick, thank you so much for coming on. Lyric Rankins, thank you as well. Sacred Grove. Jay Red, thank you for your comments and letting us know that Barron was 10 years old. It seems so long ago, but yes, he was 10 years old. It's incredible. And now he's in college just about. Who else was on here today? Looks like that's it for comments here. So with that, guys, I'm going to tell you right now, we're going to jump over and do a quick break. I'm going to make this a 5-minute break. And at the end of the 5 minutes, we should be over at Rumble by then. So again, go over to rumble.com/theconservative-take, and I'll see you there in about 5.5 minutes. See you guys. God bless. And see you in the next one.